Walk up to the entrance of a legacy luxury hotel, and the first thing you'll encounter is a human being in a tailored coat. Eventually, a management consultant arrives with a spreadsheet. They define this employee's entire job as opening the door. Once the role is reduced to a single mechanical action, the solution is obvious. Replace the person with an automatic sensor. On paper, the executive team scores an immediate win. They've just slashed low six figures from their annual labor costs, and the margins look fantastic. 5 years go by, and the property is quietly bleeding. The nightly rack rates have dropped, the lobby experiences frequent security incidents, and the most loyal, long-standing guests have booked their stays elsewhere. This is known as the doorman fallacy. The hotel successfully optimized for a mechanical task, but in doing so, they deleted the actual value the employee provided. They stopped paying for someone to hail taxis, recognize VIPs, and deter vagrants, and the brand collapsed. This happens because of quantification bias. Take a look at this corporate spreadsheet. We perfectly calculate labor cost and speed, but measuring trust or rapport outputs a mathematical error, so corporate logic treats them as zero. To justify massive AI costs, companies now zoom out, pitching the technology exclusively to cut human headcount. Rushing to adopt automation purely to save on labor traps organizations in an efficiency loop. They make the math look brilliant today, completely blind to the fact that they are deleting the subjective value that sustains their brand tomorrow. There are two competing ways to look at a business. The mathematical model treats a company as a closed system to be optimized, stripping away friction to lower the price. The alternative is the discovery mechanism, which operates on the idea that value is entirely subjective, relying heavily on human emotion. A few years ago, the Royal Mail in the UK tested this. They invested heavily in their mathematical model, spending a fortune to improve back-end delivery speed and upgrade their operational tracking. This scatter plot shows the result. While delivery speed rose sharply, it had absolutely no impact on brand loyalty. The multi-million-pound efficiency upgrade failed to make customers actually care. When researchers dug into the data, they found only one metric that correlated with customer satisfaction: whether the resident personally liked their local delivery driver. A postman who noticed you were on holiday and left your parcel in the back porch generated more brand affinity than a perfect logistical network. In service industries, human rapport overrides operational perfection. A flawless mechanical process simply cannot substitute for the perceived value of someone actually giving a damn. When companies ignore this and force efficiency onto their customers, the financial damage is very real. Consider the massive push to replace human cashiers with mandatory self-checkout aisles. The finance department claimed a victory for lowering the cost to serve. What they didn't anticipate was a massive surge in quiet shoplifting, with customers routinely scanning premium avocados as cheap yellow onions. The same unrecorded losses happen digitally. To reduce call center headcount, many organizations now hide their customer service phone numbers, intentionally creating friction to force users onto cheaper self-serve websites. Look at these two comparative sales funnels to see the reality of that decision. The website traffic funnels down to a tiny 0.5% conversion rate. Meanwhile, the phone channel converts at 30%. Executives take credit for saving on labor, but nobody is held accountable for the millions in lost revenue. Optimizing for the lowest possible cost to serve often destroys the actual business. We have seen this specific technological trap before, during the transition from steam power to electricity. Early factory owners made a very basic error. They took out their massive, centralized steam engine and replaced it with a single, equally massive electric motor. They kept the exact same factory layout, and the productivity gains were entirely trivial. Exponential growth only arrived decades later. Engineers finally realized that electric power allowed them to use dozens of small, decentralized motors, completely reinventing the layout and flow of the factory floor. Modern AI is stuck in that giant steam engine phase. Using large language models just to draft emails slightly faster or to fire a tier of middle management is just swapping out the power source. Transformative value never comes from a one-to-one replacement of a human with a digital tool. It demands a structural reinvention of how the work is actually done. To survive the next decade of automation, businesses need to study the Concorde. It was an absolute marvel of mathematical and engineering optimization, flying faster than the rotation of the Earth, but it failed to account for human reality. Optimizing solely for speed meant the return leg from New York to London required passengers to spend an entire working day in the air, exhausting the very executives who paid a premium to save time. Avoiding this requires the 180-degree flip. Instead of looking at a problem like a rational engineer trying to maximize a metric, you have to look at it like a psychologist trying to understand human friction. Soon, AI automation is going to provide a hyper-efficient, flawless baseline of service for every company in your sector. When everything is perfectly optimized, mechanical perfection stops being a differentiator. As digital efficiency becomes a cheap, generic commodity, the remaining human touchpoints won't be seen as standard operational costs. They'll become highly sought-after premium luxuries. Efficiency has a rigid floor of zero cost, but human discovery has an infinite ceiling of value. The ultimate competitive advantage in the age of AI isn't possessing the best algorithm. It is knowing exactly where to keep the human in the loop.